Alright, I suppose it's time for me to join the crowd and talk about the Epic Game Store. Roll the new shitty intro. My god, sounds like I'm farting at a banjo. Anyway, so I'll have to go back to the drawing board on that, but onto the topic at hand. So, let me get this out of the way. I am a bit of a Steam fanboy. Alright. I am pleased with many of the decisions they've made. Sure, they've made mistakes, but there's an honesty to their decisions. Here we are, lamenting big publishers making anti-consumer choice after anti-consumer choice. And then there's Valve. Valve shut down the Skyrim mod store when it turned into a dumpster fire. Valve, for better or worse, opened its storefront to nearly any indie developer. Valve has taken a reasonably pro-Linux position. Valve, for better or worse, opened its storefront to more mature content, though they've still banned a few games. Valve stepped up and backed hatred despite its, flaws and content. Valve has shown a real passion to keeping gaming as open of a medium as possible. Personally, I love this. However, I realize that many people feel the opposite way, and for many of the same reasons. While that's a topic for another time, the topic for right now is that there's a number of people who want real competition for Steam. First of all, there already is competition for Steam. GOG and Discord have their own stores, itch.io is a storefront catering directly to indie devs, EA has their own Origin launcher, and Blizzard has the Battle.net launcher. And DL Site and Newtaku are storefronts catering to adult content. Oh yeah, and the Microsoft Store exists too. Yeah, whatever. Now, none of these have the reach of Steam, but the Epic Game Store is the first one that people think might actually match its scope. It's doing this by snatching up exclusives with its Fortnite money. Overall, I don't care too much about exclusives. Consoles have had exclusives for years, and that's fine. What Epic's doing is grabbing games that were announced for Steam and making them Epic exclusives very soon before release in some cases. And that's not cool. Metro Exodus already had pre-orders on Steam before they jumped ship. Phoenix Point was enthusiastically crowdfunded before slapping their backers in the face. Those are the two worst examples. However, to me, games like Borderlands 3 that were originally announced for the Epic Store are okay, because they aren't pulling a bait and switch. It's stabbing the customer in the back, that's the problem. So, some people critical of Steam are calling for more competition. Competition will make the market better, they say. I get the sentiment. There's a lot of great advantages to competition. The capital C in capitalism stands for competition in my view. The idea, as we're taught, competition will cause companies to innovate to create better services, and better services will attract more customers. That's not exactly accurate. More accurately, competition forces companies to innovate to make money. The quality of the service is secondary to making money. If they can make money without needing to innovate and improve, they will. Competition doesn't improve markets as a law of nature, it just tends to. So let's change our perception a little bit. What does it mean to be a customer with money in a competitive market? It means you have power.
Power?
I'm using power in an abstract sense here. Bear with me. Competitive marketplaces essentially are a way to distribute power. The power in the marketplace is spread across all of the customers in that marketplace. What makes them powerful is that none of them need to spend their money on anything they don't want. It's a company's job to give them a reason to spend money in their shop, and, when necessary, instead of a competitor's. Everyone's dollar is worth exactly $1. Critics of capitalism would say that this endows the rich with more power than the normal people, which is true in many cases. However, a single rich person isn't going to buy 1,000,000 copies of a game. It takes 1,000,000 customers, each with their own $60, to buy 1,000,000 games. Whales in free-to-play games are certainly a different story, and a rich person might commission their own game, but in a mass market, everyone has some bit of money, and it's their decision how to spend it. That is your power.
Power.
Now that we're thinking in terms of power, let's get back to the Epic Store. A market is competitive when no one entity has too much control. Power magnifies as it centralizes. If too much power is in the hands of one entity, that entity has more power to exert over competition and customers. Epic is trying to leverage their power to diminish your power to shop elsewhere. In the case of Phoenix Point, they openly disrespected their own supporters' power for an entity with more power in the Epic Store. On the other hand, Steam, despite being the biggest storefront for a long time, has not attacked your power, at least not in that way. Arguments about gamers no longer owning their games and DRM are different topics. Except for their first-party games, Steam does not grab exclusives. They let nearly anyone on their platform and let those games get sold in bundles and have other business models outside of Steam. Steam is the biggest marketplace, but they have not been abusing their power. Steam has built a history of not leveraging their power over gamers. Epic does not have that legacy, and their current actions do not foster trust. So, what might happen because of the extra competition? A lot of people think that Steam needs to reduce their cut off the sales price to match Epic's. They also seem to think this is all they need to do. Let's say they do cut their cut, so to speak. Now let's say that's not enough. More big games go to Epic and Steam starts to shrink. Steam haters may applaud this, saying Steam deserves it, or it's just capitalism, but I doubt Steam would go down without a fight. And there's the problem. How do you fight back against your store losing money? By starting to put the money first. Steam might start buying up their own exclusives, essentially bringing the console wars to PC. They might push more loot boxes, microtransactions, or other garbage. Basically, they might start doing exactly all the things we've been complaining about big companies doing in the interest of blind greed. Or worse, they might close up, leaving gamers without the games they paid for or a way to download them. By no means is Steam perfect, but in my opinion they have been a non-malevolent, even-handed caretaker of games and gamers. So, what am I going to do about all this? For me, I still believe in Steam. I've still got lots of games there I hope to play someday. I've made my first impression series for a reason, but also, I'm just not finding it in me to forgive Epic for the stuff they've been pulling. I am simply not going to install or use the Epic Store. I say that now, but sure, there's maybe a couple games that may pull me over, but not many. Frankly, a lot of the games they've grabbed don't really interest me. Except for maybe the Outer Worlds, I'm not really that interested in their games. And that's perfect. A lot of games I like are smaller, niche games anyway, and I've got a lot of games already that I want to play, but I can't find the time. I can pass on the Epic Store's games. In fact, cutting those games out of my life feels great. EA Games, by moving their games to their own launcher, made it painless for me to avoid their trash games. I don't miss them at all. I've been feeling strange in terms of gaming for a while now. There's a story for another time involving a certain game, but I don't really feel the need to call myself a gamer anymore. I've been around the gaming scene long enough that the new game hype train just doesn't hit me that hard anymore. I don't need to keep up with trends. I just play what makes me happy. Reducing the number of game options, for me at least, is almost therapeutic. Each good game out there that I want to play carries with it a tiny bit of stress. That stress comes from the idea that I want to play the game, but my backlog is so long that I'll never actually get to it. It's like wanting to try all the different kinds of food at a giant banquet. You can try a tiny piece of a lot of things, but then you don't get to savor a single well-crafted great meal. Or you can savor a well-crafted meal, but then miss out on everything else. I suppose I could make an entire video about the stress of too many choices or the fear of missing out, but look it up for yourself if you like. I guess what I'm saying is that by completely disregarding these games on the Epic Store, I've freed myself from the mental labor of giving a damn about them. And it feels wonderful. It may seem a bit overboard, but I even went through the entire list of all of the Epic Store exclusives, looked up the publishers of all of those games, looked up those publishers on Steam, and then ignored all of the games from all of those publishers. Just the publishers, mind you, not the developers. I'm assuming it's the publisher's idea to take Epic's money. It's a bit extreme, sure, and there were a few games in there that I was interested in, but I feel somehow lighter now. I'm not saying you should do something similar, I'm just saying I did, and I'm happy with my decision. I realize this is a strange stance to take for someone running a gaming channel. You know, however well you can say this channel's actually running. On that note, this also means I don't expect to see any videos featuring games from those publishers on my channel in the future. I may only have a tiny voice on the internet. They may not care about one customer, but I may not have much power, but it's my power, and it's mine. Till next time, later.
Power! 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 Power!
あの二人何やってんの？